Good morning, teacher, and good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to pay my high respect to Professor Bongchan Susiri. My name is Pasarawan, and I am from Group 2. Our Group 2, consisted of 6 members. We are Khun Somania, me, Pasarawan, Lindsay Rangsay, Persupia, Les Fauzan, and Le Arundait. Today, we Group 2 are going to present and study for you a literature text called Poison. But before we can get into the story, it is very important to know who is the author of Poison and to understand about the history of racism in India. Poison was written by Roald Dahl and published in June 1950. Roald Dahl was an English novelist. He was born on September 13, 1916, and he passed away on October 23, 1990. During his life, he had written many books and stories, and one of the stories is a story called Poison, which we are going to study today. Furthermore, it is also important to understand some historical context about racism in India under the colonization of the British. First, let us look at this extracted context about the freedom fight by Emily Shine, taken from our textbook. It stated that as of yesterday, Queen Victoria declared the title of Empress of India to her regality. This reinforces the idea that India is still under the control of the British. The definition of freedom is the ability to determine action without a limit. For more than 100 years now, this definition in our country of India has not held true, and our culture has been imposed on by the British. Based on the context, we could see that during the period, Indian people had no freedom and power to control their fate. They lived completely under the control of the British, and Queen Victoria was very powerful in the society of India during the time, and she has more power than the Indian monarchy, who had no power. The lack of freedom had shown that racism could happen during the time. Next, let us look at another context that was taken from the same source. It stated that our country has dealt with the racism that the British have towards us in using our country for the financial well-being of their people. Based on this context, it showed that racism occurred during the colonization. In other words, Indian people suffered from racism during the time, while the British thought they were a superior kind, which led to them racist against the Indian. Therefore, the story Poison by Roald Dahl will serve as a description about racism that happened to Indian people, because the story described a racism that happened to an Indian doctor. Now let us start with our story. This is our table of contents. We will study key terms, then we will watch the summary of the video. After that, we will study the elements of the story. Next, we will have a Q&A session. And lastly, we will have a game that related to the story Poison. Without further ado, let us start with the key terms. These are the key terms. The first word is crate. Crate means highly venomous snake. Then we have venom. Venom means a liquid poison that some snakes, insects produce when they bite or sting a person. Then we have twitching. Twitching means to make a sudden movement with a part of the body. Then we have intravenously. It is used in administering fluid or medicine into the veins. Next we have sterilized. Means make something completely clean, killing any bacteria in it. Then we have discern. Discern means to understand by thinking carefully. Next we have anesthetic. Anesthetic means a substance that makes you unable to feel pain. Then we have splendid. Splendid means wonderful. Next we have moisture. Moisture means humidity or wetness. Then we have humor. Humor means the ability to find things funny. Next we have humor him. Based on our story means do as he wants, not to upset him. Next we have strike. Also based on our stories means sting or bite. Next we have smear. Smear means a dirty mark made by a small amount of something spread across the surface. Then we have swirling. Swirling means moving around quickly in a twisted circular movement. Then we have willpower. Willpower means the strength of will to carry out one's decision, wish, or plans. Then we have the last word, refine. Refine means someone who is polite and seems to be well educated or belong. Next, we will watch a summary of the story, which is narrated by my teammate Learndite. Thank you so much.
Now, let's watch the summary of the story all together. Enjoy. This is Timberwolf, the narrator, who returned home to find his partner, Harry Pope, lying on his bed and acting strangely. Harry Pope was sweating, and he told Timber about a great and extremely poisonous snake has crawled onto the bed and is now sleeping on Harry's stomach under the sheet. Harry Pope had not been bitten, and he had been waiting for Timber for many hours. Timber wanted to wipe the sheet back quick and brush off the snake before it had a chance to strike, but Harry refused to follow Timber's plan. Harry wanted Timber to call a doctor, so Timber called Dr. Ganderby. The doctor reached their home and he gave Harry a serum to fight poison if the snake bit him. Timber asked the doctor about the serum and he replied that the substance may or may not save Harry's life. So Dr. Ganderby came up with another way. He asked Timber to go to his office to bring chloroform. He wanted to soak the mattress beneath Harry and pull off the sheet to brush off the snake before it could strike. After they had pulled out the sheet, they found nothing on Harry's belly beside the bottom. Dr. Ganderby said, "Don't move." Dr. Ganderby said, "It's not there," and he asked Harry whether he was dreaming. Harry Pope shouted, "Are you telling me I'm a liar?" Harry even insulted Dr. Ganderby, calling him a dirty little Hindu servant. Timber tried to stop Harry from insulting the doctor, but he did not stop. Ganderby walked out of the house without saying a word. Timber sang the doctor. The doctor said quietly without looking at Timber that all he needs is a good holiday. Then he started the engine and drove off. And that is the end of my summary about the poison.
After listening to the summary of the poison, let's continue to the next point. My name is Kunsomani and I'm going to talk about the element in the story. So there are 6 elements in our story. The first one is characterization, second conflict, third imagery, fourth irony, fifth sarcasm, and the last one is symbolism. So let's move on to the first point, characterization. There are 3 characters in our story. The first one is Timberwood. He is the narrator of the story and Harry's roommate. He is trustworthy, helpful, and grateful. He cares so much for Harry, though he is easily frightened. He still tried his best to reconcile Harry when he knew that there is a snake on Harry's belly. Second, Harry Pope. He is a jerk who pretended to have a snake on his stomach under the sheet, and the one who caused the conflict. He was racist, reckless, and always put the foot in his mouth. For example, when he discriminated against a doctor by calling him a dirty little sugarette. The last one is Dr. Ganderby. Dr. Ganderby is the protagonist of the story. He is certainly a kind and professional doctor. He showed responsibility for his duty. He was always calm and optimistic person even when people insult him. Ganderby is the one who came up with a plan to prevent the snake from making things worse. He also realized that there was no snake in the area where it was supposed to be caught, and there was definitely no snake, and Harry was imagining.
Good morning, teacher and everyone. My name is Fauzan and I'm from Group 2, and I'm also responsible for conflict and imagery. First, let's talk about the conflict. In this story, there are 2 conflicts that happen. The first one is the conflict between Harry Pope and Ganderby, and the other one is the conflict between Timber and Harry Pope. So the conflict between Harry Pope and Ganderby happened when he called Ganderby Black Silver Rat. show sarcasm to Gandabai. And the conflict between Timber and Harry Pope happened when Harry is insulting Gandabai. That made Timber really angry and stabbing to tell Harry to shut up because he can't stand the way he said to Gandabai. And now let's move to the next point, which is imagery. I found two imagery in the story. The first one is I saw the window above his wing, Gandabai holding the siding almost flat against the arm, sliding the needle sideways through the skin into the blue, sliding it slowly but so firmly it went in smooth as into cheese. In this sentence, the writer wants to show us that Timber is overthinking too much even when Gandabai is normally injecting Harry. Timber thinks that Gandabai does it slowly and carefully because he's afraid of the snake. And the other imagery is the way he was speaking reminds me of George Boiling after he got shot in the stomach, when he stood leaning against the crate containing a spare aeroplane engine, holding both hands on his stomach and saying things about the German pilot in just the same hoarse, staining half whispers Harry was using now. Based on this context, we could see that Timber was imagining George Boiling, who said things about the German pilot in just the same rough, staining half whispers voice after he got shot in the stomach. The voice was like the voice that Harry was using at the time. So thank you everyone. That's it for my part. Now let's give the floor to Lindsay. Lindsay, the floor is yours.
Hello teacher and everyone in the class. My name is Lindsay and my part here is about the irony. The irony is that Harry was afraid of a venomous snake when the only real poison in the story existed within him. The real poison was his racism. This thing made him so he doesn't know what he's saying. Harry was aware of his rough and venomous words, but he chose to do them anyway. And while that happened, he got angry when the doctor Gandabai joking with him. Harry told his friend that there's a venomous snake on the stomach, which is funny because he already has a venomous gut. And move on to the next point here is about the sarcasm. The sarcasm in the story is when the doctor asked if Harry was sure that he saw the snake in the place, which made him angry along with the stress he had been under for the past hours and his misunderstanding of the situation that made him insult the doctor without any hesitation by calling him a dirty little sewer rat.
Good morning teacher and good morning everyone. My name is P and here we will talk about the symbolism in the poison story. So in the story, the author have symbolized a lot of things to the real world counterpart. The first one being the poison itself, which symbolizes the racism. And when injecting into one's body, it will be tremendously difficult to cure if not uncurable. And it can also kill people and lots of people in fact, just similar to the author's statement that creates poison, kill a dozen of people each and every single year. In real life, lots of innocent people have lost their life due to the racism, and we can see this reflection in George Floyd incident and recently the ongoing hate on Asian people through the COVID-19 pandemic. The next thing is the bedsheet, which symbolizes the protection from racism. And in the story, the author contrasted it with crate by, though it offers no protection at all because just like the real life, there are laws and regulations against racism, but we can still see those hate, discrimination, and racism happen each and every single day. The next thing is the crate itself symbolizes Harry because he is a racist person and often uses rough, otherwise venomous words to other people. The next thing is the Harry calling Dr. Gandabai a rat is symbolizes to the elitism because as we all know, rats eat rats as the food. So here in the story, Harry views himself as superior to the Dr. Gandabai. And the next thing, and also the last thing, is the serum, which symbolizes goodwill, and no matter how much you inject it into the person, there is no guarantee that it cures people from poison or racism in real life. We can see the reflection of this when Harry yelled and discriminated Dr. Gandabai despite his effort trying to save his life. And moving to the next point, which is the reflection. After we read the story, we think that it is short but meaningful, and we also think that this is a masterpiece as the writer has done an excellent job telling us the story's plot. Both stories also surprisingly easy to understand and digestible, even vocabulary does, as the writer often opts to use the normal simple words to tell the emotional scenes in the story. We also think that the moral of the story is also deep and impactful, especially in the modern society where racism and discrimination have always been a sensitive topic. And before talking the bitter or discriminated words to another, one must think about the situation as if it were to happen to his or herself, what would he or she think? Because we can often see that the action come back to harm the doer or the speaker in this case in one way or another. And in order to live peacefully with other people must stop the racism that existed within themselves, as people have equal rights and status, and no racism are superior to the other. We are going to become that in the end anyway, so do good thing even if it's not pay off. Here comes the end of our presentation. Thank you, teacher, and everyone for your time and your listening. And if you guys have any question, feel free to ask, and we'll try our best to try to answer those questions.
And now for the fun part. If you want to gain knowledge more about the story, you can play the game by clicking the link in the description below. Thank you.